Morning, everybody. To the October Board of Adjustments. My name is Larry Otterback, and we are about 10 minutes after 9, and we're now in session. Sorry for the brief delay this morning. We have two cases, both of which the order is going to be the same. Here in a minute, I'm going to swear staff in. Mr. Board Member Pate will read the case. Staff will come forward and present the case. There'll be a round of questioning by the board members to staff. When we're done, staff's going to take a seat, and I'm going to call the applicant forward. You'll come forward to the podium, raise your right hand, say your name and address, be sworn in, and then justify the project. You'll have 20 minutes to do so. Clock is on the wall. When we're done with, when you're done justifying the project, there'll be a round of questioning by the board members to you, the applicant. And when we're done with that, you may take a seat. I'll call those in favor to come forward, and then those opposed collectively. Those in favor will have 10 minutes to tell us why you're in favor. Same thing, those opposed will have 10 minutes collectively to tell us why you're opposed. Procedure is going to be the same. Those that want to speak, you'll come forward, raise your right hand, state your name and address, be sworn in, and then tell us why you're in favor or why you're opposed. Seeing several in the audience, what I'll probably do is just have everybody that wishes to speak to stand up, be sworn in at that time, and then when you address the podium, just tell us your name and address, and then tell us why you're in favor or opposed. When you're done, when we're done with that process, you'll take a seat, and the applicant will have time for rebuttal, and then final statements. The rebuttal time is 5 minutes, and then the final statements are 5 minutes. When we're done with that, you may take a seat, and I'm going to open up to the board for any questions for anybody in the audience. And then when we're done, I'll close the floor for public hearing, open it up for discussion among the board members, and then take a vote. Please, everybody, make sure your cell phones are off or on vibrate. Board members, that includes you. Please make sure your mics are on. And with that, let's get started. If we can swear in staff.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Mr. Pate, can you read the first one?
Yes, docket number OC 18033, an application has been filed requesting a conditional use permit, location variance, and maximum square footage variance for a detached accessory dwelling unit located at 1110 Overstreet Lane, LaGrange, Kentucky.
Good morning, Amy Alvey with Oldham County Planning and Development Services. As Mr. Pate stated, this application is a request for a conditional use permit for a detached accessory dwelling unit, as well as a variance for maximum square footage and a location variance. The property is located at 1110 Overstreet Lane in LaGrange. The property is zoned AG1 agricultural and is 3.79 acres. This is an aerial view of the property on Overstreet Lane. This is the home that is on the property, and then this is the accessory structure. This is just an area view that shows you the drives. The drive actually comes up and loops. Just doesn't show on this. There have been no prior actions before the Oldham County Board of Adjustments regarding this property. This is a view looking into the property from Overstreet Lane. This is where I was talking about the loop driveway here. This is the residential home here. This is the accessory structure. This is just another view from Overstreet Lane. This is the west view, so this is going back towards LaGrange. This is the north view, which would be across the street from the drive. And then this is the east view, and Overstreet Lane is a dead end. So this goes down towards the dead end of Overstreet Lane. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow an accessory structure to be used as a detached dwelling unit. It already has been constructed into living space. A location variance to allow the detached ADU to be located in front of the primary structure, and a maximum square footage variance. So again, this is the subject property or structure. This is just a zoomed in version of the home that is on the property. And this is a view looking from the drive, looking back out to Overstreet Lane. So this is Overstreet here. The code enforcement officer received a complaint on August 10th, 2018 that the accessory structure was being used as living space without permits. A site visit was performed and the owners confirmed that the accessory structure was being used as intermittent living space. The code enforcement officer advised the owners to speak with planning and development staff regarding the use of the building. The accessory structure is 1,152 square feet. It is a 24 by 48 building and has been finished to include 2 bedrooms, a kitchen area, laundry room, and 1 bathroom. No building permits were issued for this remodel. So again, this is just another view. This is the accessory structure here. This is another structure that is less than the 120 square feet, and that does not require a building permit. It's not part of this building here in question. This is the floor plan that was provided with the application. You'll see it's noted that this is 1 bedroom, a bedroom. This is the kitchen area. There is a bathroom and a laundry room, and then this is just unfinished space. Section 250.040E5 states detached accessory dwelling units shall not exceed 25% of the primary structure's square footage. The primary structure on the property is 1,344 square feet. Therefore, 336 square feet is the allowable ADU space with an approved conditional use permit. And then section 250.040 item E8 states the ADU shall not be located in front of the primary structure, so the applicant is also requesting a location variance. The regulation is that the any manufactured home technically should have the front door, which is here, should face the street. This one kind of sits at an angle, so it doesn't really technically forward face Overstreet Lane. Like I said, it sits at an angle and really faces this way. But if you take the front corner of that and draw the line across, that would be considered in front of. So this is the area here that is technically in front of the primary structure. This is the provisions regarding accessory dwelling units. These are the general provisions. In item number 2, it says the property owner must reside in either the primary structure or accessory structure dwelling unit at the time of application for a building permit. The property owner will be required to complete and sign an accessory dwelling unit affidavit. This is in red because the work was done without any proper building permits. The other key item is item number 3 is that they must have a minimum of 2 acres when served by septic, and the applicant owns 3.79. So they meet all of the general provisions of the regulations except item number 2. And then in specific regarding detached accessory dwelling units, they're number 1, they're asking for the CUP. Item 2, the property is zoned correctly. It's zoned AG1 agricultural. Item 3, they do have the minimum density required to have that. Item 4 states that the ADU must meet the minimum setbacks for the primary structure. These are the approximate setbacks measured from our GIS to the property lines. So they meet the required setbacks. But item 5 states that the detached accessory dwelling unit shall not exceed 25% of the primary structure square footage. So the primary home, again, is 1,344 square feet. 25% of that ADU would be allowed for ADU, which is 336. They are proposing 1,152 square feet. So they're asking for a variance request of 816 square feet for the maximum allowed square footage for the ADU. And then item E, again, talks about that they have to be 5 feet from the structure. Item 8 is the other variance that they're asking for that says that detached accessory dwelling units shall not be located in front of the primary structure. So they're asking for a location variance because this was an existing accessory structure. According to the applicant's justification statement, the space is used for the owner's elderly parents and for them to obtain their privacy. And that is from their justification statement. So in summary, the applicant is requesting the following. They're asking for a conditional use permit for a detached accessory dwelling unit. They're asking for a variance for the maximum square footage allowed, and then they're also asking for a location variance to allow the detached accessory dwelling unit to be located partially in front of the primary structure. And that is all that I have. Be happy to answer questions.
Okay, questions for Amy?
How long has the applicant owned the property?
I'm not sure. That would be probably a good question for the applicant. I'm not sure how long that they have actually owned it.
While you were there, did you observe any doors or windows in the building in question?
I did not go. I just went up the driveway to take pictures. We don't have, oh, sorry, this way. We don't have right of entry, but I could not see. There's a carport area, so it's kind of enclosed. So I just went up to this area. I didn't walk up into the actual buildings area. I guess closer. There was a dog barking too, so didn't take a chance.
Amy,
Yes, sir.
on the accessory structure to that structure that is being constructed.
This,
Yeah, what is that?
that would probably be a good question for the applicant, what the
Okay.
intended use is. But it is smaller than a 10 by 12, so it does not require the
Just wonder what
building
that
permit for
structure
that.
was.
Yep, I would ask the applicant for that. It appears it has a ramp right there as well, so I'm assuming they're using it for storage, but that would be a question for the applicant.
Okay.
So that building with the house wrap on it's not connected to the other
No,
one?
sir.
Okay.
Not physically connected.
No, sir.
Okay, further questions? Okay, thank you, Amy. If we can have the applicant come forward. Good morning. Morning.
Morning.
You can raise your right
Hi.
hand. Be sworn
My
in.
name is Jorge Paz, and
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes. Hi, my name is Jorge Paz, and she's my wife, Maura Aldana, which is the owner of the property. And we're just here. When we got, I'm here just to see if I can get things right. I know I start wrong doing things without let you guys know or anything, but all what I want is see if I can get the metal building code and everything and do everything straight how it's supposed to have my in-laws living there. That's the whole thing.
And I apologize. You are the applicant, Maura?
Maura is my wife. She's
Okay.
she's the applicant. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. And your name again?
Jorge, Jorge. Last name Paz, Paz.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? That's,
I just, like I said, I just wanna, now that we're in this, I just wanna get things done right, and hopefully we can straighten this out and we can go straight from now. All right.
all right.
you.
Questions for the applicant?
So I had asked Amy a moment ago, how long have you owned the property?
We got the property back on, I believe October 2015.
Okay.
We've been there for about 3 years now.
And then I also asked Amy, but she didn't observe the building that you're housing family in. Does it have any doors or windows in it that
Yes,
that we're not seeing?
yes, it does. You're talking about the metal building, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it has doors and windows. Yes, it does.
So, okay, that's all the questions I have at the moment.
And I don't know. Someone was asking about the building that is detached. That's just a storage shed that I built to put all my equipment because I work in interior remodeling, so I have my pressure wash and like generator stuff like that I cannot keep outside. So I just built that to keep everything on the roof.
I have a question
Yes.
pertaining to the, said someone that has been living in the home currently.
Honestly, living like permanently, no. I was telling Amy, I believe I was telling her last time. I got the build myself because, like I said, I work in interior remodeling, and every time that I have some leftovers from materials, I take them home and I pile them up. And when I know I have a good amount and I can do something, that's how I started doing it. And my wife's family, they're huge. So, like I was telling Daryl last time too, that if you guys walk by or drive by on the weekends, you're gonna see like 20 cars parked out there because they get together like almost every weekend to visit their parents because my in-laws live with us. And sometimes we get family visit from outside the state, and it was easy for me to, like, if they come visiting us for like a week or so, stay there because the building, if you walk into the building, it looks way better than where I'm living now. And so they used to stay there for a couple of days, a week maybe. And lately I had a family that they moved from California to find their own place over here. They spent a week with us. They stay in the metal building while they found a place. Now they got their own place and they're gone. And probably that's how this came out at this point, because probably my neighbor, they saw a lot of movement there and they kind of worry about it, I guess. But like, nobody's living in the building.
How many, for what period of time has someone been utilizing that space as living space?
For how long?
Yes.
Like I said, when I start building, I would say probably like not even a year back from now that I built that we did the kitchen and the bathroom and the first room, and that's what we were using for like when people come to stay or something. And now lately I end up adding a second room, but that room nobody has get to use it. If you walk into the room, you see like people living there, but it has everything. It has bed and everything in it. But like I said, we were using the other room, like I said, it was just for a short period of time. It's not
So
like,
based on your testimony, then the first time that somebody utilized this property as an overnight living space was approximately a year ago. Is that correct?
oh, the last time that someone would stay there?
The first time.
The first time, yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to
I'm
get
not
some
sure
sense of how long you've been utilizing this space as a living space. So you're saying based on-
Probably a little less than a year ago.
Okay.
I don't have the exact date, but I would say so.
Okay, I'm just trying to get some sense of how long it's been used in that capacity. Yeah.
And in the past year, how many people have lived in the space?
Like I said, a lot of people comes over. Like, for example, my wife's family, they have like 5 nephews that they work as a truck driver. Sometimes they passing by and they have like a couple of days of time before they get to their point where they're going to. So they just come and park their truck in the Walmart parking lot, and they go and spend a couple of days with us. Okay, let's say that person stays a couple of days. He probably spent 2 nights there with us. He used the building.
Let me ask you another question. Have you been compensated in any way while those people have stayed in your home?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you've done it free of charge?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's all the question then.
At any point in time, what would you say that the longest time that the building has been occupied? If you had family coming, would you say that they've stayed an overnight, a week, 3 weeks, or what would be the longest usage that you've experienced over the time that you've been using it?
Like this last time, I would say probably this family that they came from California, they spent, I would say, let's say a couple of weeks maybe, that they stay there. It was 3 members, husband, wife, and a kid. They stay there for, let's say, a couple of weeks. Probably not even that.
So I'm curious.
Yes.
You have a house that's served by a septic system, I presume.
Mm-hmm.
Did you install a septic system for the building?
No, I just connected to the same one.
Okay. And where did you draw your water from? Did you get a separate meter for the building, or is it
No,
coming from the house?
it had water. The building has water service outside, so I just grab it from there. And since the meter is 1 meter for both units, and also power, it has power when we got the property.
Does the building have a water heater in it?
Yes, it does.
Does the building have a furnace in it, some sort of heating capacity?
No, furnace not yet. We haven't get to that point yet because, like I said, we're now thinking about using it like for permanent use. But since we got to this point, might as well we'll try to get things done right and have some use out of the building now that it's built like that.
Thank you.
Does the unit have a range or an oven or a stove?
Yes, it does. It has a full kitchen.
Okay. Is it electric kitchen or is it natural
Electric,
gas?
full
It's all electric?
Full electric, no gas at all.
Any further questions?
I have one more, Larry.
Yeah.
Is anyone living there today?
No, my mother-in-law, she's kind of old already. I don't want to be mean saying this, and she has some healthy problems. So I have a couple of kids, young kids, and they make a lot of noise around the house. So sometimes she gets frustrated, and she decides to walk over there and spend time over there. She has her dog tied close to the metal building all the time. She goes and feed the dog, and sometimes she just walk into the building and stay there for probably a couple of hours or so. Because we were telling her that now we're telling her that that's gonna be their space if some point we get it straight and we get all this clear. And they go like there, they spend time. Like I said, if anybody goes visiting us, that's where we hang out. We have a big awning that we just added to the building as well, and we use it like for birthday parties or stuff like that when we get reunions. And that's where they spend most of the time, under that metal building. My father-in-law, he keeps his cars underneath there, in the awning.
So if I understand you correctly, it is vacant at present?
I'm sorry?
It is. There's no one living in it right now?
No, right now. Like I said, the building is a livable building, but nobody is living in it right now.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, guys. All right, is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the applicants? Opposed?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Barry Baxter, 117 West Main Street in LaGrange. I represent Ron Winters and Jeff Baker, who are neighbors to this project. Hey, Brooke, how do I get? So, as you all are well aware, this ADU regulation is relatively new. It looked to me like it was enacted in 2016, and it has a lot of requirements. This is the aerial, same aerial that Amy showed you of the applicant's property. When looking at the regulations, this is the regulation that Amy spoke to. And there are 8 requirements, and I understand that there are variance possibilities here, but there are 8 requirements that are set out when you're dealing with a detached accessory dwelling unit. So from our perspective, these are the violations of those 8 requirements. The applicant was occupying the ADU without a permit. I understand they're here today asking for a conditional use permit, but they have admitted today that they occupied the unit for at least a year before they came before this body and asked for this relief. Second, they can't have an accessory dwelling unit in an AG1 zone until they get the conditional use permit, and there's not a permit at this point. This one, I think, is a big one. This is, I did a little quick math, and it looks to me like they are asking for a variance of 350% from the regulations about the size of the ADU. Amy has listed a square footage of about 1,350 square feet for this building right here. This building is about 1,150 square feet. And again, in doing the math, I came up with a huge variance request that they are making with regard to this particular property. This goes back to another part of these regulations, which deals with the general provisions. And I apologize, no, I'm sorry, this is another one of those 8 that I listed. Mr. Winters, who is my client and an adjoining neighbor, he looked at the PVA records and he has visually inspected the height of the barn and the height of the home on the property, and he believes that this building in fact exceeds the height of the primary residential structure on the property. This again goes back to another one of the violations, which is that the accessory dwelling unit is in front of the home itself, and it's closer to the road. Again, you've got 8 requirements here, and this is another requirement that has not been met. 5 out of those 8 criteria are not in compliance. So the purpose of this regulation was to address these, to allow people to have them under certain conditions, but the conditions are in place, and there's a way to find out whether or not you're going to meet the conditions. You come in and you ask for a building permit. That would have triggered the process here. We've got a situation where a home has been constructed with no building permit, no health department inspection, nothing that would trigger any type of governmental review of this application. And when that occurred, then we get to a point where it's built, it's done, and we're here asking for forgiveness. And that's not what the intention of the regulation is. The regulation is clear about how you're supposed to go through to get an accessory dwelling unit. And in my client's estimation, those steps were not followed. And again, there are huge requests for variances here that are problematic and that do not meet the regulations that you all have in place. The other provisions of this, under the subsection B provisions, there is a requirement that the accessory dwelling unit be designed to maintain the architectural design, style, appearance, and character of the primary structure. There's been no evidence about that today. Nothing was presented to you all about any compliance with that particular part of the ordinance. And just from our standpoint, there are numerous questions that remain unanswered about this particular request. You've got a handwritten drawing. There's no pictures. There's nothing shown of the interior of the building. You don't have any types of permits, approvals. You don't know how the hot water heater was installed. You don't know how the electric was installed. I mean, there are a number of problems with this particular building, not just because there's violations of your regulations. So from my client's perspective, this is not something that should be granted, and we would request that you all deny this application. There may be other neighbors here that are here to speak, so I'm going to get out of the way and let them talk.
By show of hands, can I see anybody else wishing to speak in opposition? Just one more? All right, come on forward.
Name, address, and be
Oh, I got 2 more.
All right, were you going to speak in opposition? Okay, we have a total of 445 remaining from both of you. Go ahead.
Jeff Baker.
And
Joseph Burke.
if you can raise your right hands, be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, Jeff, go ahead.
I live at 1402 Overstreet Lane in LaGrange. I'm a neighbor of George and his wife. as far as the family goes, we have no problem with that whatsoever. Out there on the road, we have parties, we have a lot of people there. To this day, I still do not know who lives in that modular home, who lives in that barn. They've been there 3 years, and nobody knows for sure, I'm speaking for myself, knows exactly who lives there and how many are there. At any particular time, there's 6 to 15 cars there coming and going all the time. Everybody on I'll speak for myself. At my home, I've got 3 vehicles. There's 2 people living in that house. Most people on our street have 2 to 3 occupants in that house. So there's not a lot of traffic. You get 15 cars going up and down that road, we're still not sure who lives where and who owns what. I'm not sure anybody lives in the modular home. There's a lot of kids that get on the bus, off the bus, little kids here, little kids there. I don't know where they're living. And I've been there 3 years, so I'd like to know who lives there, actually. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, your clock's not running.
Thank you. Joseph, go ahead.
I live on the end of Bover Street Lane. I just like to say that building was there like 30 years ago. The old neighbor come in there, he worked on vehicles. That building was full of grease, oil, antifreeze, and then they just built this building on top, put these rooms. That land's got to be contaminated. I mean, it's not good.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition? All right, very good, thank you. We'll have time for rebuttal if the applicants would like to come forward. Would you like to come forward for any rebuttal? Yeah, so you've heard some of the statements on opposition. Do you have any statements for what was said?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think I'm doing anything against anybody in the neighborhood or anything. Not bothering anybody there. So I just, like I said, I just want to see if I can have the unit usable for my in-laws. That's it. If it's possible, I would appreciate it. If not, it's what it has to be.
Okay, opposition, any time for rebuttal?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Any final statements? Anything else for final statements? Actually, I apologize, opposition. We'll start with you on final statements. You guys can just step aside for a second. I'll call you forward again here in just a second, okay?
Mr. Chairman, I think that my client's viewpoint is pretty clear. I mean, the regulations are in place for a reason. And there are multiple violations of those regulations, and now they're trying to come and cure those violations. But when they come to cure, they have to ask for variances from a number of the regulations. So from our perspective, this is not within the spirit of what the ordinance says, and we would ask you to deny it. Thank you.
All right, anybody else in opposition? Final statements? Yes, ma'am. You'll need to come forward and to the podium.
Susan Heller.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
What's your name?
Susan Heller,
Okay,
at 1301 Overstreet Lane.
okay. Go ahead, Susan.
Yes, I'm concerned about the amount of people that are there and the septic being able to hold them. I know we recently built, and due to the size of the house that was built, it required 2 septic systems because it was a 6-bedroom house at that point. So how are they, I mean, technically there's 2 rooms in the new structure. There's possibility for a 3rd or 4th room with the empty space, and then they have 3 or 4 bedrooms in the other space. How is that one septic, which I don't know if it's a lagoon system or however, is holding the capacity of all these people being in and out of there? I do believe it's a huge health risk. There's agricultural, there's farming, there's all that through there, and I think it's a big risk. I don't think it's correct. I don't think it's the regulation.
Thank you. All right. Any other final statements? Okay, if you guys could come back forward for any final statements. Just any final words to the board?
No, I don't think, I don't have anything to say.
Okay, all right. Board members, questions for anybody in the audience?
I guess I have a question for Jim. Does this count?
It does.
Okay. If the applicant's asking for the variance, I guess one of the questions I have beyond the variance is, as far as procedure goes, Jim, how does the building department or the health department get involved in ensuring that the structure can function as it should? You know, I was concerned as far as windows or heating and things of that nature, as far as the building being able to operate. Based on the procedures that occur, at what point in time will the building, or does the building, get inspected by the health department for capacity, to that woman's point, as well as the safety and the occupancy capacity? And maybe I'm out of line as far as the questioning goes.
No, I don't think you are. I mean, normally, if this were done procedurally, one step at a time, you'd get a conditional use approved, then you get a building permit, you have building plans, and once you do the construction, you have inspections. At that point, the health department is also, in order to get a building permit, you get approval from the health department. That's the normal procedure. That's not where we are today. The issue is that if, in fact, this were approved, it's going to be difficult to comply with the building codes because the walls are covered up, so we haven't done electrical inspections, plumbing inspections, health department, whatnot. And so we come upon buildings that are done without permits occasionally, and it's very difficult to say, all right, how do we do an inspection and actually end up giving a certificate of occupancy unless they take and open up all the walls again. So it's, first question is this whether or not the conditional use is acceptable or not. If it's not, then we don't deal with that. They won't be able to use it for occupancy. If it is, then we'll have to get together with them and try to determine as best we can whether or not it can be occupied according to the building codes. Okay. And that's a very big gray area. Sometimes we actually refuse to do inspections and just simply say, we're all about public health and safety, and that we don't want to refuse to do them. But then, how do we do an inspection when we can't see if it complies with the codes?
Even if you get through the conditional use part of it, you got the variance issue, which in my mind may be the most difficult for the board to resolve because of the nature of it having been done in advance.
Yeah.
Willfully and
Right.
without any kind of other guidance.
You do have a lot to consider even to accept the conditional use permit.
Amy, question for you. Barry brought up the height variance. That hasn't been listed as something for
We
us
don't
to
have
consider.
the height of the buildings listed on the application, so I can't say either way if it's taller or not. It sits higher on a hill, but we don't have the ability to measure. So if it would be something that if you moved forward with approving the use of the building as that, then we would have to make sure that that part is in compliance. If not, they would have to come back for that variance.
That would go back on code enforcement, correct?
No, it would come back to this board. Yeah, they would have to provide that documentation. Yeah, we don't have the ability to do those types of measurements in our office, so they would have to provide that with the plans.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Further questions for anybody in the audience? Okay. I'll close the floor. Open it up for general discussion.
guess I'll start. Based on the testimony that we've heard, I can't see how I could approve this moving forward based on the requests that they have for the variance or for the occupancy capacity. When we look at the health and safety, I have a real concern that the occupants inside the structure and the safety of it. They mentioned that there's no conditioned air in this space, so they have, no capacity of controlling the environment that way. As we heard testimony from someone referring to the capacity or the ability for the sewage and the septic system to operate correctly. As far as the auxiliary dwelling, I'm certainly, I could not support that. It seems like there's a building that was built before these folks ever owned the property. As far as the height issue goes, that's something that, that was done some time ago. But just focusing my emphasis on the auxiliary dwelling unit, and when we're looking at the health and welfare and the safety of the folks utilizing it, as well as the neighbors, as far as the concern with the septic system potentially breaking out, as well as livestock and streams and things of that nature, based on the information that I have, I would not be in support or approve this as proposed.
Ron, I'm in agreement that, I am also not in favor of supporting the application. Looking at just the general character of what it is, as well as everything that you just mentioned, I'm in total agreement with. I'm not in favor of supporting this.
Based on the testimony today and the face value of what our requirements are to approve or deny something, I think it's clear that we could not approve this, whether they intentionally or unintentionally meant to circumvent the requirements. The requirements are not met in either one of these requests, in my opinion, and I would move to deny.
I also agree with everything that's been said. I do not agree with this application.
All right, so there are three things here. We have the conditional use for the ADU, the square footage for the accessory. If it is denied, if the ADU,
Is denied, there's no need for variances or anything of that nature. But also why I'm here, that if you do deny it, you do need to make a part of your motion that it shall not be used as habitable living space. They can still use it for storage.
Right.
But it cannot be used as habitable living space.
thanks, Amy. Okay, I'm ready to hear a motion.
I'm going to make a motion that we deny docket 0C 18033 for conditional use permit for a detached accessory dwelling unit on October 18th, 2018. I'm going to state that we denied in light of the fact that it will adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare, in light of the fact that there has been no inspections and the building doesn't meet the requirements as set forth in the county's regulations.
And should not be used.
And should not be used as habitable space.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Take a second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Application's been denied. Okay, Board Member Pate, you want to read the second one? Actually,
Yes.
hang on, David.
Yeah.
Hang on.
The group.
Side yard setback.
Okay?
Okay. We need to remind them we're still in session.
Hang on, they're almost out. Okay, those remaining, we are still in session. Thank you very much.
And yes, we have docket number OC 18034. An application has been filed requesting a side yard setback variance for a fire protection training building located at 3711 West Highway 146, LaGrange, Kentucky.
Okay, good morning, Brooke Beeman, Senior Planner with Oldham County Planning and Development Services. As Mr. Pate stated, an application has been filed requesting a side yard setback variance for a training building located at 3711 West Highway 146 in LaGrange. The property is zoned I-2 heavy industrial, and the property is 1.223 acres. This is an aerial map of the property. The property in question is circled in red, outlined in red. This is the current zoning of the general vicinity. You can see the subject property is zoned I-2 heavy industrial. There's I-2 to the north, to the west, to the east, and there's R2 to the south and to the east as well. The LaGrange Fire Protection District is requesting a side yard setback variance of 8.2 feet for a proposed training tower to be 66.8 feet from the property line. The proposed training tower is 480 square feet and approximately 45 feet tall. These are the proposed building renderings that were provided, and the training tower that's being discussed is this structure.
I'm sorry, Brooke, can you go back one slide? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, go ahead.
Okay. And then there's another view of the proposed building elevations. Section 240 I-2 Industrial District Property Development Regulations states that a 75-foot setback, side yard setback is required where a side yard abuts a residential district. A portion of the adjacent property to the east is zoned R2A, therefore the proposed building must adhere to a 75-foot side yard setback. This is a copy of the site plan that was provided. You can see that the subject property that's circled in black is zoned I-2, and it abuts a portion of R2A. So the building that is outlined in blue is 66.8 feet at its closest point, which requires a setback variance of 8.2 feet. And then this is an aerial view of the site, just to give you an idea of the general location of that proposed building and where that will be located in relation to the existing R2A. This property that is the adjacent property. That's part of it is zoned I-2 and part of it is zoned R2A, is owned by the Water District. The applicant's justification states that if the variance is not approved, the district would not have room for their training because certain clearances must be met for training purposes. The proposed facility will not cause a hazard or a nuisance because it is located an adequate distance from the highway. The property to the east, zoned R2A, is owned by the Oldham County Water District and not used for residential purposes. Therefore, the location of the proposed training tower would have a negligible effect on the use of the adjoining property. These are the, again, proposed building elevations. And then the proposed floor plans. This is a view of the applicant's property. And just a zoomed in view of one of the existing buildings. This is a view of the applicant's property looking east towards the water company property. And you can see there's a existing tree line that is generally where the property line splits the two properties. And this is a northeast view. Just a zoomed in, this would be the general location of where the proposed training tower will be located.
I'm sorry, that's where the proposed training tower?
You may ask the applicant for more specifics, but this is the general location. This is the this is the water tower property on the other side of that tree line. So according to the site plan, it looks like it may be oriented in that general location. This is an east view on Highway 146, and then an existing building that is on the property to the north. Sorry, to the south. This is a view looking west on Highway 146 and the adjoining property 3717 Highway 146. This is, I'm standing at the applicant's property looking south towards the adjoining property 3714 West Highway 146. So this is the church that's across the street. If you look at the aerial shot in the right corner, the star is showing where I'm standing. This is at the water company building, standing at the fence, looking into the backyard of the water company building towards the applicant's property. So you can see the existing structure from this location.
Where's 146?
It would be back this way. So you see the star. I'm standing right next to their building looking towards the applicant's property.
So where the star is, where's 393?
393
Yeah.
or 146?
Well,
146 is here. 146 would be back this way.
yeah, right, yeah, but that, okay. Keep going.
So that's all the pictures I have. The applicant is requesting a side yard setback variance. The required side yard is 75 feet. The proposed side yard is 66.8 feet, so the variance requested is 8.2 feet.
Okay, so just trying to orient where we are. I know we're 393 abuts 146. Go to, yeah, I don't know where we are here. Where is,
So this is, let's see if I can.
Do you remember where the old firehouse was next to Oldham County Water District?
yeah,
It's the property located behind the old firehouse.
is this building,
This is
what?
the Jazzercise place.
Yeah, that's the Jazz House,
And
okay.
that soccer field next to it.
Okay, all right. And where are the soccer fields?
Right next to it.
Right next to it, all right, all right, all right.
I have a question pertaining to if and when the proposed 393 is extended under the tracks, will that affect that in any way, that area?
I'm not sure. I know Jim is.
You know what I'm saying, Jim?
It does not. I think they've already purchased the right-of-way for that project. The building will be closer to the street, but I think it all stays there. It doesn't affect the tower at
I
all.
was gonna say it won't affect the tower in any way. Yeah, okay. I was just trying to forward think that.
Yeah, and again, the proposed tower is where, on this shot right here?
In this general location.
Okay.
There is a training tower there now, structured in place, isn't there?
Not that I saw.
Okay.
There's an existing building
That's what I'm
that's
saying, it
there.
used to
That
be.
was shown in some of the photos that I took. That was the existing building.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Brooke?
No.
Okay, thanks, Brooke. Okay, if we can have the applicant.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
I'm Jim Williamson. I'm representing the LaGrange Fire Protection District, the owner of the property, but I'm also representing the Oldham County Fire Instructors Association, who will be the entity that will be making use of the fire tower that's going to be constructed on this property. This has been going on for a long time, talking about, really putting a first-class fire tower on this property. But what's basically happened is all the first responders, as I understand it, in Oldham County have gone together for this project. And they've been able to get a grant, they've been able to get some donations, and it's a viable project. and this is gonna be a first-class training facility when it's finished. I've been representing fire districts probably for 45 years plus, and I can remember talking about this facility that's proposed on this property 25 years ago. Of course, there was a structure on the property, but it's been removed. This is going to be quite different than what was on the property, though. This is going to be a facility where firemen are going to be able to train and be able to provide better service for the community, and also they will be a lot safer because of the training that they're going to go through. Now, I'm not on the ground, but we're asking for a variance of 8.2 feet. Couldn't quite get everything on the property the way it was. Mr. Garber's been on the ground, and he's going to come up here and present the application. And when we get finished, we'll be glad to answer any questions that you all may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Swear him in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good morning. My name is David Garb with Garber Chilton Engineers, 2249 Commerce Parkway, LaGrange. And we've been tasked with not only designing the site and situating the buildings, but we're actually a part of designing the structures themselves. As Jim said, it's going to be a first-class facility. There'll be two parts. One will be a two-story building, and that building will be concrete block and concrete. All the floors, everything will be poured concrete that will allow them to go in, say, on the first floor. They start a fire. I think they usually do it in barrels, get smoke in there and do their training. They'll be able to go up on the second floor. They'll be actually having exercises where they put ladders up against the side of the walls, go up on a roof, strictly first class. Now, abutting that would be the four-story tower, which it will be a combination of concrete block, and steel. The tower portion is what is requiring the variance. The way we wanted to have everything separated, give room for fire trucks to, drive around, people to be able to work. They had a specific distance that they wanted to be between the buildings. And when we finally settled on the location of the new building and the new tower, we were within the 75-foot setback required by the adjoining R2A. The property is zoned industrial, which would not normally have the setbacks, and there would not be a problem. But because of that triangular piece that comes down and abuts it, we have to come 75 feet over, like this, to set back the building from that, from the R2A. So it just, as Brooke described, there's a corner of the new tower that's going to be within the 75 feet. So that's requiring the variance. As you see, you asked about what the highway department, what they're going to buy, is that going to be a problem? Well, here's 146 out here, and this property is way back here. So there's, with the tower being right there, any highway improvements are not going to affect this project. It's a nice sized piece of property. This is a location where they have been doing training for many years. The old tower is now gone, and with the grant they were able to get, this is allow us to move forward with the new buildings. And again, as I stated, the variance is only being required because of this piece of R2A that is abutting the property. Mm-hmm. So with that we're asking for the variance today so we can go ahead and move on with the project and get all the permits that are required.
What's the construction parameter as far as dates, start time, end time?
They are ready to start anytime. As soon as we can get the permits, they're going to break ground.
Might be more of a question for Amy. It's 75 feet is the requirement for, David, hang on, because it might also be for you. I can't draw on this, but the 75 feet is for industrial, R2A. What is the requirement for industrial?
I
Which is,
believe it's 35. I'll have to
it's
pull it up,
thank you.
but that's-
I think what your question is that if it's an industrial to industrial,
Yes.
that's 35 feet.
Yes.
If it's industrial to a lower zoning classification such as residential, then the side yard is increased to 75 feet.
Okay. All right. And
Because of
this,
the zonings
and
between the
this
two properties.
space right there is industrial.
Correct.
Okay, so that's 35 feet from that to that, which we're not talking about. I know we're talking about from that to that, which is 75. I get it,
Correct.
but it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. David, how far off the road, 146?
It's several hundred feet. It's I don't think I have all the dimensions on the front property, but based on, oh geez, they're 400 or 500 feet.
And are you aware of any, I'll ask Amy at the appropriate time, are you aware of any height variance or height requirement?
No, not that I know of, not for industrial.
Okay, all right. And I'm sorry, it's Brooke.
Yeah, but
Okay.
The height requirement is 50 feet, and they're proposing 45, so
Thank you.
they're within the height requirement.
Thank you. Okay. All right. All right, any other questions for
Yeah,
David?
David, I have a couple. Sure. As I'm looking at the overhead, I'm just curious as to why the building just couldn't be rotated clockwise 8.2 feet, or why it couldn't be shifted to the rear of the property line just a little bit so that you didn't need to request the variance, but I'm sure there's a reason.
Yes, in fact, I proposed the same thing as we were developing this, if we could rotate or move it over. And without the knowledge of the fire district on variances or anything like that, long before we got into that, they gave us specific distances that they wanted between buildings, both this way and this way. And once we got everything situated, then we realized that we're too close to that one sideline. But they wanted to continue with for the long-term use of their needs. They wanted to go ahead and proceed with requesting a variance because they need those clearances.
It's hard to see, David. Is there something behind what's being proposed? I can't tell if it's 2 school buses or something, but.
Yeah, it's just, there's no building or anything
So there's no
there.
structures, and I guess that was one of my questions, is why the building simply couldn't just be shifted directly to the rear of the property line in order
Yeah.
to not need the 8.2 feet. But again, I'm sure there's a logical explanation, I'm just trying to understand.
Here, you gotta put it on overhead. Can't put it up there on his.
Okay.
You gotta put it on overhead.
As I'm viewing the overhead, I see things on the property, but I don't know if those are permanent structures or if it's automobiles and stuff.
Oh. Well, this is just a working drawing, so it's a little messy, but I will put it up there. I'm going to orient this so 146 is this way. There we go. You can see that the tower that's requiring the variance is here. And now when we add the 2-story training center, which is actually going to be built first, we're back, as we move around, this is all the area they want to be able to maneuver around, both with vehicles. They wanted to have plenty of room for the vehicles to get back. We've got that rear yard setback, keeping everything away from that. And so it's important to get the variance now to allow the tower, even though right now they have the funding and they're ready to, the design's ready to go on the 2-story portion. But we have to make sure we can fit get the variance for the tower so we know we can start construction.
You
on the
just
two-story.
answered my question. We're looking at a blue dot on that previous slide that represents the tower
Yes.
without reference to the structure that's got to be built first. And, okay, now that answers and I knew there's a perfectly good explanation, I
Okay.
just wasn't catching it yet. Now that you put this up, I understand. So now it's not a question of just shifting the tower, it's also the larger proposed building that's being built first as well.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
now I understand, I can wrap my mind around it, thank you.
Okay.
Well, but to carry on to that, so a couple things. So number one, the placement of the tower. Why can the tower not be placed in compliance with the current regulations?
Okay, it would require everything to be moved. The two buildings have to abut each other, and they will be physically attached. Well, yeah, the two-story building will be built first, concrete block, concrete, and then the tower will come next, and it will be physically attached to the two-story building. So when we have the location tied down for the first phase of the project, then we show that where the tower is going to be, and then that's when we realized that we're not 75 feet away from that. And if we start rotating, we rotate that whole long building, and then that doesn't give them some of the clearances that they wanted.
Okay, all right, that's the key word. Actually, can you zoom out just a little bit more? That's as far as, okay. Then
I
can you scoot it up a little bit? There you go, perfect, right there.
Right.
So on our diagram, that we have the same thing, except it looks like we've got one more piece of data on this. The distance between the concrete pad and the proposed two-story, let's see if I can draw this, that
Yes.
right there on our diagram is showing 40 feet. We also have from here to here a distance of 76 feet. And what you just said is you need the clearance, and that is what has dictated the placement of the existing building.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
This allows them to maneuver vehicles
All right.
through here and up through here. And we were trying to meet all of the clearances that the fire department needed and then fit that on the site.
Okay, all right, so by testimony, the distance between here and here is 76 feet. You're asking for an 8-foot variance, so if we shift this thing down 8 feet to fall within compliance, you're saying that you will not have the necessary clearance for fire trucks and everything else to do the maneuvers. You need the space that's on this diagram as presented.
That is request, that's correct.
Okay.
And we talked about possibly, making the building parallel to this line.
Right.
But then that messes up all of our clearances here.
All right, very good.
So they want everything parallel in there.
One other thing, you're asking for 8.2 feet. Why the 8.2? What is it that is going to encroach on the regulation?
Okay.
And the reason I'm asking that
Uh-huh.
is oftentimes when we ask for the exact figures like 8.2, we find that things shift a little bit when it's actually done. And oftentimes we'll say, you know what, let's not do 8.2, let's do 10, or 10,
Yes.
or something. So that's the reason I'm asking that is why 8.2? What exactly is it that we're asking for that variance
Sure.
for?
Now, I think your all's drawings may have something, that little triangle in yellow?
Yeah.
Okay. And we have that placed exactly, when you're working AutoCAD, things have to be exact. AutoCAD, people working on AutoCAD don't want to talk in feet. They want to show it to the nearest tenth of a foot. So we had it shown to the nearest tenth of a foot. Therefore, staff takes that, subtracts it from the 75, and they get exact. I mean, if you all would want to give a little adjustment on that and make that 9 or 10, that's fine.
What we see in yellow, it is the edge of the building. It is not a pergola, or it is not something that that can waffle on. It is the edge of the building.
That is correct.
All right. Further questions for David?
Well, I'll just throw one more out there. Based on the image that's on the screen, is there a reason why the proposed structure, the tower and the future building simply can't be shifted in our orientation to the left? What's going on to the left? Would that then create an issue encroaching on the rear? Because right now I see it says 25-foot setback. If the whole entire structure was shifted to the left based on this orientation, what reason for or against is this placement proposed?
It has to do with the clearances and wanting to keep the activities out of this required rear yard. That way, they're allowed, they can do that. That gives them the room to do that. If we start shifting the building back this way in order, we have to slide that quite a bit further back to meet that, to meet this clearance because it's on an angle, that
Yeah, it
property
appears to
line.
be 18.4 feet based on this drawing. But I was just, again, asking the question as to why it was proposed and not shifted back. But if you're talking about to get equipment around for
Yes.
training purposes, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it as well.
Yes, that's
Thank
the
you.
whole purpose.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Further questions? Okay, thank you.
I'll leave that up there in case you all want to see it.
All right, is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor? Okay,
I've already been sworn in. Amy Alvey, 2903 Kinlock Road, LaGrange, Kentucky, 40031. I'm also your planning staff, but I'm also the chairman of LaGrange Fire District, and this is property that is owned by LaGrange Fire District. LaGrange Fire District is fully in support of this. Part of the reason you need to understand is that when they do fire trainings, it's just not LaGrange Fire, it's all the fire districts in the county. So you don't have one fire truck, you have 4, 5, 6, 7 fire trucks. So to be able to stage them the way they need to stage them and still be able to get securely through the site without running into other fire trucks or other people that are on site, it's the best location for the site. It will improve our training abilities to be able to train all Oldham County firefighters, and not just LaGrange Fire, since this is on our property. So it'll be a great asset to the community. That's all I have.
Amy, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
The entity that Jim talked about, is that a privately held company that will be overseeing this or a publicly held company?
I don't know how the Fire Chiefs Association and Training Center, I'm not sure. They're it's a nonprofit, but I'm not sure
That's
the actual
really all I
title
wanted
of
to
it.
know.
Yeah, it's everything's
Was it a
nonprofit that's
profitable
used.
company
Yes,
that's
sir.
going to be proposing the overseeing
Yes.
of this?
Yes,
That's-
absolutely.
that's
And
what I
this,
needed.
this property is owned by LaGrange Fire District. It was donated by the adjoining property owner of, Clayton and Lambert. And it, as long as it remains as fire training grounds and used for fire service for the county, then we remain ownership of it. At the time that it does not, then it reverts back to Clayton and Lambert
Okay.
for industrial use.
That was really my only question.
Sure. Any other questions for me?
I've got one, I don't know who to ask it of, Jim, maybe you, but why just the fire? Why would we not allow police training or other type of training to be done out of the facility?
Well, they use it for fire training itself. They fill it with smoke and how to extricate people. Police officers are not trained in that manner. They could,
But if they wanted to use it for SWAT training or something
Sure.
like that, that would be something
sure,
you'd be
they
receptive
could use
to.
it as that. But it's a fire training grounds.
Okay, all right. Okay, anybody else speaking in favor?
Would you like for one of the firemen here to explain that ingress and egress for the property?
Sure.
Would that help you all?
Sure.
Matt?
Morning.
Morning.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Name and address.
Matt Nelson with South Oldham Fire Department, and we're at 6310 Old LaGrange Road, Crestwood, Kentucky, 40014.
All right.
To address some of your questions, the Oldham County Fire Instructors Association is a conglomerate of the training officers of each fire department in Oldham County. There's 6 of them. We're funded by the Fire Chiefs Association and by the fire departments pay a due to us every year to use this training facility. So over the years, all the years that Mr. Williamson has talked about it, we've been improving this, and all the people that have come before me to make this center what it is. Yeah, we are a not-profit, and we're here for the sole purpose of training emergency service agencies. One of you spoke to about the police department. They currently use our existing metal building, and they will also utilize this new structure for their special response team training and any other training that they do in conjunction with us, and also Oldham County MS SMOG team, which is known as the Special Medical Operations Group. They do rope rescue with us as well. They do mass casualty scenarios, and will also be utilizing this facility. And in fact, when we wrote the grant to the State Fire Commission, and when we were awarded the grant, it was also on the key condition of not only the 6 Oldham County departments, but also including county police and any other law enforcement agencies within the county, as well as Oldham County MS. And we are also open to bringing in other departments from Henry and Trimble County, and as you saw in the earlier presentation with the photographs, it is a regional training center that we're offering there. So primarily for us, but for our fire, police, and EMS agencies, but also for Trimble and Henry County as well.
All right, very good, thank you.
Could you tell the commission about ingress and egress?
Yes, the reason for that building placement, I'm sorry, I believe you spoke to, you saw an old wooden tower that used to be there. We recently tore that down this spring because of its dilapidated condition and wasn't structurally sound. You know, you walk to the top and it would shake in the wind, and we'd have an engineer look at it. We just determined it was not safe that way. That tower was originally placed there first, I believe, by the LaGrange Fire Department many years ago, before we added the concrete pad, which is where what we call flashover container is, or before that metal building. So the later expansions of the training facility were done around that wooden tower, and that concrete pad was placed, and that metal building you see there in the diagram was also placed with the correct distances to get not only ground ladders leaning up off that wooden tower, but to have fire hose traveling around those ground ladders and to allow fire trucks to travel around it as well. As times have changed in our fire apparatus, we can't make them any wider, but they've definitely gotten taller. And we've also purchased apparatus with fixed aerial ladders on them, and they have metal outriggers that will come out of the rear or mid of the apparatus and have to come out and take up space to come out and down and mount to the ground as well. And with this current location, before we even knew it was a variance issue, we knew that this worked with allowing a agency to use that concrete pad where the flashover container is, and for also another agency at the same time simultaneously or two independent training exercises utilize both of those structures and have the clearances we need to not be in each other's way. And also, as you saw in the pictures, we have a lot of vehicles around there. Automobile accidents is something we make very often, so we need space to set up those accident scenarios for our members to train on as well, and not interfere with clearance around the building or being able to maneuver or drive apparatus around that building in its entirety to access any one side of it as we would access a residential or commercial building here in the county.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Did I ask for opposition? Anybody in opposition? Final statements? Anything?
I'm gonna say a couple things. Matt really didn't tell you which fire department he's with. He's with South Oldham Fire Department. But this is kind of shows us that everybody's working together. It's pretty nice when we got the police, we got EMS, we got the fire departments, and they're all working together, common cause. And we're dealing with governmental agencies too. So that's pretty phenomenal too in itself. So I hope that we were able to explain why we were asking for 8.2 feet. And it's just because there's just a lot of equipment going to be on this piece of ground. And I've been doing this with fire departments for a long time, and I've never asked them why they do something, because they know what they're doing. They're well trained. So we would appreciate the variance being granted. We don't think it's detrimental at all to any of the adjoining property owners. And I think I think we've shown that we need to have a variance and put the building where it is, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. All right, board members, questions for anybody? Okay, I'll close the floor, open it up for discussion.
Based on the training, based on the information given today and the training requirements that are needed for this facility, I would move to approve.
My only comment is the 8.2. I'd rather, because of the, what I stated earlier, as far as things may not be as exact, I would suggest that we would allow a larger variance. I'm suggesting 10 foot.
I would concur with that, and I want to thank Mr. Nelson for getting up and explaining, since I don't ride on a fire truck.
Was that a motion?
I heard you make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was that a comment?
That was a comment. Initial. I said I would move to approve.
Okay, thank you, David.
I concur with what Mr. Nelson was saying, but I appreciate his testimony in light of the fact that I only see fire trucks raging down the road. When we look at the needs, I think that this is going to be a state-of-the-art training facility, as the attorney stated, and with the size of the equipment that I simply can't grasp. The testimony helps me gain a greater clarity of why they need that space. I'm just looking at space footage, and as Mr. Nelson testified, he's explaining why they need that space, and I would be inclined that if we move forward, I would approve this as submitted as well.
I would also approve it as submitted. And also with the, Mr. Chairman, you see it going from 8.2 to a higher number, to add some latitude to that, that'd be fine with me.
All right, I'm ready to take a motion.
I make a motion to approve docket 0C18-034, October 18th, 2018, the request for a side yard variance with the LaGrange Fire Protection District. I make a motion to approve as submitted,
As submitted, or
with the caveat that we change the variance from 8.2 feet up to 10 feet to create some latitude.
okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's been approved. All right. All right, board members, you all received a packet of the last month's minutes. Any discussion, comments, modifications?
I make a motion to approve board minutes from September 20th, 2018.
I second that motion.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Minutes approved. Any other business?
You most likely will have a Board of Adjustments meeting next month. We have one tentative application and one that most likely will be submitted by next Wednesday. So, as always, you will get an email from staff advising you whether or not you will have a meeting, but most likely you will have a meeting.
Okay. And I understand that we had a successful training this past time. I know Board Member
David Pike
Pete-
training? Yes,
David
that's
Pike?
very good.
And Pete.
That was 8 hours?
6 hours?
6 hours?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, any other business?
Did you welcome Mr. Riley back?
Welcome Mr. Riley back.
It's good to
That's
be
exactly
back.
right.
It's good to be
Great
home.
to have you.
You were last with us in 2016, is that correct?
Last with you in, yes, that's correct.
2016, so welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.